You know, when you look through some Asian companies, you have some very big ones, both in terms of telecoms and electronics companies, who they're not wholly private sector. Government is also involved in those ones, and they are run properly. But over here, we may run away with the impression that government never does anything good. What is it that we're missing?
Well, what we are missing, my view, is a strict adherence to the rules and to the regulations. You know, every sector must be run on the basis of laid down guidelines, laid down rules and regulations. Power sector, the oil and gas sector, banking, financial services. Once the rules are in place, government's role is to act as an enabler, as I said earlier, as a regulator. So we are not saying everything government is bad and everything private sector is good. You actually need a combination of both parties, but they must operate within established framework. There must be clear guidelines to say this is the mode of operation, and if you step out of line, these are the sanctions. So the sanctions must be applied, they must be seen to be applied, so that a clear message is sent to the marketplace that we are running an efficient system here, and we only want competent people to participate, and anybody who cannot deliver, there must be a process through which those people can be exited.
Do we listen at all? Because when you say message, when a message is passed and you don't have a recipient,
yes,
or the recipient really doesn't seem to be picking up that message, it amounts to nothing. As a financial expert, many of them in Nigeria, they've always talked about this. Sometimes we look at the issue and we say, hey, come on, we're here again talking about diversifying the economy. And this is not the first time we've heard that word. It sounds deja vu to a lot of Nigerians. And we keep talking about it. Are we doing it the way that it should be done? Are we setting in place a policy that won't be inimical to any move that will help us get where we want it?
Thank you, Sulai. I think the reality is, like you said, we've been talking about this for a long time. On this particular program, I've had the same conversation with you in the past. My view is every Nigerian has a responsibility to contribute their own quota to the economy. I think programs such as this, social media, the press, and all stakeholders in the Nigerian economy, we have to continue to speak to government. We have to continue to push and insist and ensure that government actually sticks to whatever promises they've made. The challenges of Nigeria are not insurmountable. They are actually fairly straightforward. We just need political will and drive.
Just pointing out to you about this comment from FIRS, where they say 70% of the 559 billion naira June allocation came from the non-oil sector. And then, look, this is quite a chunk. Have we really, or haven't we diversified the economy? Or are we just saying, look, we need to diversify because we have not? Or they just need support?
Thank you very much. I think the reality is, if you look at the Nigerian economy, the way it is structured, the various contributors to GDP, you will find out that the oil sector that we're talking about, that we seem to be focusing so much on, contributes far less than 20% of GDP. And GDP measures the aggregate economic activity within our country, Nigeria. So by any stretch, the oil and gas sector is just a fraction, a small fraction of our economy.
It's grabbing all the attention.
Thank you. Because it is our major foreign exchange earner. And that is really why our economy is in the state that it is in today. Because we've allowed a sector that is contributing less than 20% to our economic well-being. We've allowed that sector to dominate the national discourse, to dominate the flow of foreign exchange into the Nigerian economy. So for all intents and purposes, the Nigerian economy is diversified. What is keeping the balance of 80% down is the absence of proper infrastructure, is the absence of a proper economic blueprint blueprint and a support for that sector. So we talk about 17.5 million SMEs. There is a story now that 27.5 million businesses are active and operational. The question we should ask ourselves is, what is the state of those businesses? How healthy are they? Are they able to access financing, or are they dealing with a multiplicity of taxes? So yes, I understand Mr. Fowler needs to generate revenues for the federal government, but I will propose a radical idea. Let there be a tax holiday for the SMEs. Give them 3 years, 5 years, and actually support these businesses. If we have 17.5 million registered SMEs, if you go to the CAC today, you will see less than 2 million companies are registered. So it means that most of them are operating below the radar. Why don't you encourage them to come in?
It's a big point you just raised here, because some of the big-time business owners in the country, they've had tax holidays.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing that those small-time business people who have been able to pull 70% out of the 559 billion in June alone haven't been able to get such kind of assistance.
That is the irony. So I would feel that because the SMEs are supposed to be the engine room of growth and employment creation within this environment, I think they are clear candidates for tax holidays. So you give them a tax holiday, you give them access to low-cost, sustainable, long-term financing on terms that will not break their backs. Because right now the CBN's 220 billion facility is saying you must bring tangible security. That has excluded 80% of the SMEs. So create accessible financing options for them, give them a tax benefit, a tax break, rather than this multiplicity of taxes they are facing. And I assure you that within 5 years, suddenly you have 10, 15 million businesses that are thriving, and that's where your tax revenues will come from.
And they say the same thing needs to happen in the States. As much as they are focusing on increasing the IGR,
correct,
they also need to follow the same process. Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you on. Bayo Rotimi is a financial analyst.